United States of America. Unity and oneness is what we're made of. One nation under God, it's plain to see. We're showing the whole world what a country should be. United we stand in America, hand in hand in America. Together as one in a land that we love. United we stand in America.
Changing times. It is Wednesday, December the 10th. We are live at the Acts Media Group headquarters in Springfield, Missouri. This is show number 270. What a blessing. Welcome today. I'm glad that you all are on today. And we've got a great show. I am Lynn Morris.
And I'm Dr. Mary Byrne.
Yes, you are. And we have a great guest today. Christina Tonsing, how are you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for having me here.
Well, I tell you what, you and me have known each other for a long time. You are a difference maker. Absolutely, you are a difference maker. And we're going to be talking about one of the most important topics that we could talk about in this country. There's a lot of things that we need to make improvements on, but education is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about state government because we're from Missouri. But what we're saying in Missouri, we have listeners and watchers right now watching all 50 states. And what we're going to say in Missouri will probably apply to every state in this country. And I think just to kind of get us started, my opinion as the oldest person in this room is that education when I was going through school was a pretty awesome experience. It seems like that we've had our educational system taken over by people outside our country and inside our country, both ways. And just slowly, if you all will remember the old frog story, I did this with my kids as they were growing up to kind of illustrate what I'm going to just now say. You can take a frog and throw it in water that's not hot, not boiling, and he will not jump out because he's in his element, he's in water. But then you start turning the heat up on the stove, and slowly until it gets to a boiling point, that frog won't jump out because he has been used to what his element, the water.
Plus he's been disabled.
Yeah.
And as he relaxes, he's not able to.
And then he can't jump out. And then guess what? He dies. And kind of that's what I want to think of today as our analogy. I don't think it's too late, but we have to make changes in education. And unfortunately, we have people internally in our government and all around the country that want to destroy us from within because everyone knows you can't destroy the United States of America military. You cannot do that. We have the mightiest, best military in the world. Okay? We didn't win all these wars by happenstance. Through God and through our military, we won every time. So what we're going to talk about today is extremely important. And I hope you'll hear some things. I hope you'll take notes. And I hope that you will go to your own school board. Go to your own school system and ask questions. Be polite, but ask questions and be consistent. Don't give up because your kids and your grandkids.
Give up, wake up.
Well, yeah, because the education of our system, if we don't teach our kids properly, we are doomed, okay? So I hate to be the doom and gloom, but this is something that is really important. So
I want to establish something right now.
Yeah.
Public education was not meant for workforce development. Public education, from the notes on Virginia that Jefferson, public education was to educate everyone, regardless of socioeconomic status, and then identify the ones who the education system should then cultivate for leadership to preserve the republic.
That is
That's
so
it.
good. I was just
Okay.
talking with the teacher. Oh, I don't mean to interrupt you.
Oh no, I'm
I was
just saying,
talking with
and
the
this
teacher
is in our
about
Missouri
that.
Constitution. The language from the founding documents from Washington.
Her well dressed to the notes to Thomas Jefferson's letters to John Adams are in our Missouri Constitution. And so I'm not speaking here out of wishful thinking. I'm talking about, I went back and looked at those
phrases and found them in the founding documents. So it's enshrined in our Constitution what the purpose was for, to protect the rights and liberties of the people. But first you had to know what those rights and liberties were. So if you distract them by saying, no, you need work skills for the employers and the corporations in this state, then you have basically unmoored yourself from the constitutional purpose of education. And I just texted my sister this morning, who was a teacher, because New Jersey, as a state board, has eliminated the exams, the exit exams, in the idea that this would provide equity. When actually what it does is it lowers the standards, because nobody has a compass to aspire towards, getting into a certain direction. And she said the local school boards could have exit exams at their level. And I said, legally, yes. But what school board would expend money on requirements that aren't required at the state level, especially in tough times, tough economic times, if they're not legally required to do so?
Or is equipped to administer an exam.
Right.
That would be valid.
And so you're a local school board member. You can talk about that from your perspective. What are the priorities that you see coming into your local school district? Not just that might be required at your local level, but is being imposed on you from state requirements and federal requirements. What do you see happening?
Before I answer that, I want to go back to one thing that you hit on, because I was just talking this week, very recently, with another teacher friend. I taught math for 28 years at the college level and 21 years at the college level, 7 at secondary high school level. And we were talking about, what is it really? People, I think we've kind of lost. What is the purpose of education? And it's not, you go to different community events and you're different places and you hear people talk about, well, we're getting our workforce prepared, we're training our students. But I think that is an excellent product, a result of education, is that we have people who are equipped to be great workers. Yes, that's an important end result, a byproduct of the education. But the purpose of it was to educate citizens, to educate, inform, to equip them with the thinking skills to be able to read and analyze and make decisions, and to be well informed enough about history, American history and world history, to know what happens when certain decisions are made, what's the impact of that on other people groups, what are the ramifications, and to be able to notice when these sorts of actions start happening, this is probably going to be the result. You have to have that ability to interact with people and people organizations.
And the key decisions you were supposed to be equipped to do was who to vote for.
Yes.
By reading.
Yes.
About them, by attending town halls, meeting the candidates, and knowing the Constitution and the freedoms it provided. When you have an entire city voting for a known communist, and you know that communism is the antithesis of your Constitution, you've got a serious problem, either in the knowledge of those people to know what they're giving up, or the propaganda that gives them the illusion they're going to have a better life under communism. It's been tried all over the world for, at least, let's see, it's before Marx. This is the kind of communism that Marx developed was actually from Plato's Republic. Okay, so this is as old as written literature, and it's never really panned out anywhere. As a matter of fact, William Bradford, who wrote On Plymouth Plantation, said, we've tried this Plato thing. All right. We almost died. and now we had to try privatization of land and enjoying the fruits of our own labor.
Yes.
All right. Not stockpiling everything into a communal system, because you know what happened? People were stealing from that communal system to feed themselves, leaving less for the whole community.
And there was a dispersion of responsibility, right? I don't need to work as hard because Mr. Morris is going to work really hard, and I can just use
He'll
some of
make
what
up
he's
the
got.
difference.
Yeah.
So how's that worked out for everybody? Yeah, there you go. But they're not teaching, what our history was.
Right.
That this socialist/communist system actually was on our own soil, not just in Plymouth Colony, but in Indiana, at New Harmony. That was exactly what an Englishman came over here to establish right after 50 years to the day. Robert Owen stood on the steps of a main building in New Harmony, Indiana, which he bought, to demonstrate to basically what he thought we were was uneducated and unrefined Americans compared to the Brits. Okay. And he said, I'll show you how it's done. And he was going to have this utopian, science-driven society where his government in that colony paid for the clothing, the medical care, and the food of all of the inhabitants. Oh, but by the way, the children will be taken from you and put in residential schools. You'll have visitation rights when we say so. You'll give up basically your parenting rights. And he had to do this to establish the new man, which is what communism is. Okay. Therefore you cannot be corrupted by your parents. That's an old thought. And it's what's going on now in our current education system. Do you see it?
I was lamenting the reach by many systems, but especially school districts, for earlier and earlier access to kids. But my friend rightly pointed out, there's been a breakdown in the families, and there's a need there. And I would argue it's not the government's job to step in when people step in long term, when people can't afford to buy groceries or things like that for long term. I would argue that's a community job. That's a social organization, not the government's job. But the fact remains there's a need. There are kids who haven't grown and developed with those basic elementary skills. So I'm not sure what the answer is to that.
Yeah, that was another aspect of the socialism that gets introduced, is a deliberate breakdown of the family. Remove the father from the home, and now you have a system with female head of household. But that's all part of, if you read the Communist Manifesto, that's exactly what they wanted planned. It was basically to free women of the responsibilities of marriage and childbearing. And that's where this whole progressive agenda comes from.
Our founders talked about our system of governance. I'm sorry, I'll be quick. Our system of governance was made and set up for Judeo-Christian values. People with those kinds of values, it would succeed with that. And without that, without the father in the home, without personal responsibility, without doing your best because you want to work for the Lord, because without those basic Christian values, it would not succeed.
So now the school becomes the instrument of that government intrusion into the family.
And if we have local control guiding that school, it's hopefully its values that it's teaching and promoting will match what the community wants. But too often the community is not involved in conveying what they want to be taught through the schools or to be demonstrated through the schools.
And if the public schools, and this is the point that gets back to the beginning of our conversation, if the point of the public schools was to teach them the Constitution and they knew the history of the Constitution, even if they weren't believers, they would know that the principles were biblical.
Right.
And it was John Rush, who was one of the founders, who talked about the the Bible as a fundamental text in the public schools. Again, nobody's forcing religion on you, but you need to know the origin of the principles and that this is the society, if you want to call it a kind of Christian utopian society. But the point is, that was the idea.
The backstory behind
right.
why they set it up the way they did.
Right. And they're not teaching that in government and civics, right?
Or many of the things that we learned when we were in government and civics, maybe.
Yeah.
Now some of our school districts, they're on track and they do a great job. And I think that those are the ones where community members are more involved, more active. Parents are watching what the kids bring home. Parents are looking at curriculum plans.
So I want to kind of summarize. I'll listen to both you ladies, and I
on.
agree with what you're saying, but I want the listeners to understand this. So I'll tell you, it's not just education; it's our religion. It's actually our patriotism. They have taken every aspect of what our founding fathers and what God did and helped those founding fathers come up with our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, our preamble, everything. God was involved, okay? So the people who hate America, they hate our system, and they want us to go into socialism, communism, whatever form of ism that you have.
Globalism.
They know, again, they can't beat us militarily. So what are they going to do? Over time, I'd say it's 100 years and moving on, we've got to fight this. And you wake up, America, wake up every state, because what's happening is they're slowly, I'm thinking about my grandkids. So I'm going to talk about my grandkids. Still got one in high school at Nixa. She's a junior. Everybody else has graduated. They're either getting married and buying their first home. They're getting started in life, okay? But I would have to tell you that my kids are not as patriotic as my grandkids are not as patriotic as my kids. And then I look at my kids, they're in their 40s, and they're not as patriotic as I was and still am. So, and then you look at my parents and my grandparents, keep moving back, and you'll see that over time, we've lost patriotism. We just had Veterans Day, November 11th. And honestly, schools are in session. They didn't used to be in session when I was in school for Veterans Day. Veterans Day was a respected holiday that we were taught the importance of Veterans Day. I don't think the kids today even think about Veterans Day. I honestly don't think they do. And it's the fault of our school system and our American system to allow these values that are so important to just go away. How about religion? How about God? Our good late friend Dee Wampler. He's been on our show several times. He's just was a tremendous friend of ours, and I'll never forget. He showed me one time 30 years of history books. 30 years of history books. I don't even know how you'd collect all those things.
Yeah, he was a collector.
He graduated from Parkview High School just like I did up in Springfield. We had a great education back then. But over time, he watched his own kids and his grandkids, and he collected history books. He went and bought history books every year, and he had everything underlined, how they had altered history. They had changed, they omitted it, they changed it, all that stuff. And the reason why you want to know history is to learn where you don't repeat the same mistakes again.
That's right.
But how's these kids today, when they're omitting and changing history, how are they going to do that? And then he was such a strong Christian person, and he knew the importance of God in everything that we did. And so he wanted God in schools. He wanted God in government. He wanted it. He fought for it and things like that. Today, it's very rarely that you ever hear anything about God in schools. And then when you get into college, like you taught college, my gosh, even at Missouri State, I'm going to pick on them. I went to school there, my pre-pharmacy. I was on a scholarship there, athletic scholarship, great school. However, taxpayers' money, it's a state university, probably 25,000 kids in that school today, a pretty big school. And they've got professors on day one that will tell you there is no God. Okay. There is no God. They're in college and and the problem with that is you've got young kids, 17, 18 years of age, gone from home for the first time. A lot of them were brought up in a Christian family home, went to church on Sundays, Wednesdays, knew what God was all about, knew Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. And then all of a sudden they go away to college, university, and they are told by the professor. And then if you don't believe that professor and you don't write your papers exactly like he wants you to do, then you'll get a 0. We're going to have a young lady here before Christmas, Miss Polnacki, that her mom is an attorney. Her dad is a doctor. They live in Nixa, Missouri. She's going to be on our show, and she's an Oklahoma State pre-med student, and she got a 0 out of 25 points because she didn't write the things that the assistant graduate student, he was grading all the scores for the professor, and he wrote his own comments, was completely different than what her Christian values were.
And the assignment was to write your opinion.
Write your
So
opinion.
she wrote her opinion.
And she did exactly what she was raised up to do. And so we're going to have her on because this is the perils of what we're facing today. And they're doing it through education. And, one time I thought it was good to maybe start earlier in life, get those little kids, the sooner you could teach them, the sooner, the smarter they would be. Well, unfortunately, some parts of our country, the sooner they can get a hold of those kids and indoctrinate the kids to values that we don't believe in, then you got more problems. And so that's why we got to do that.
Yeah, and just a little aside here, the state of Tennessee did universal preschool and state funded it. What they found is that the forcing down of this academic preparation into preschooler actually created behavior problems for those kids in the early grades because it was too regimented. We have robbed the innocence and playtime of these young kids in the name of a progressive education where you think you can shape the human being and you're not honoring human development and you're going to pay the consequences. That's what this comes down to. So yes, I'm with you. Why collect data if you're not going to pay attention to it? Okay. And a Head Start data shows the same thing.
Yeah.
That whatever gains these kids make in preschool, if they're normally developing children, typically it washes out by 3rd grade because all you've done is artificially given them some kind of head start. Now, for English language learners and kids with disabilities, it makes a long-term difference. But for those normally developing kids, it washes out by 3rd grade. So you're investing a lot of money into basically values reshaping, values clarification, they call it, rather than actually hitting the target. What you sold that program on is that we would have a well-educated citizenry. We've had over 50 years of Head Start. How's that working for us? I'm going to get slammed for that, but I'm just saying, look at the data.
And again, to be fair, there are some communities doing it very well, keeping their kids active, having things shaped to fit what they are.
But call it what it is. Don't say we're going to get this superhuman academic school system if we start earlier. If you want to call it childcare and keeping kids safe while their moms go to work or to get work skills, call it that. But don't say we're promising you better academic achievement of our K-12 students because after 50 years, we're not seeing it.
Good.
Okay?
Good insight.
And is that the job of the government to provide childcare?
And we have to make informed decisions about what we want to happen.
Exactly.
Right? Parents are making informed decisions about what they want to happen with their kids.
So here's the
And
deal.
it starts with calling it the right thing.
If you have federal funding in a program like Head Start, that means that you have federal influence, a national level influence over what happens in those programs. And this is what happened when we created the U.S. Department of Education. They. In 1979, that's when the legislation got passed. And in 1980, that's when the first Secretary of Ed was put in place by Carter, but he was not reelected in November of 80, right? So Reagan ran on dismantling the U.S. Department of Ed before it got started because he could see the writing on the wall. It was what the infrastructure you needed to nationalize education to implement the UNESCO agenda, the global agenda for education. He saw it, but he couldn't get rid of it. The Secretary of Education, Terrell Bell, kind of submerged it, shrank it, but he really wasn't on board with Reagan's agenda. They were just waiting him out. And then as soon as Bush got in there, boom, it grew again.
Hey, guys, I've got a suggestion for everyone out there. I was just thinking about this. Parents today, and grandparents today, if you're not involved in the school board, you're not involved in your school's activities, your child's activities, and you're not making sure they're getting involved. Today, most of the high schools that I know, most of the schools I know have many extracurricular activities, myriad of just things, choices. Kids need to belong to something. Part of school importance is socialization, learning how to work with others. You see some of the people that are killing people every day on the streets don't know how to socialize. They don't know how to talk to someone. They're just loners. They're separate. And we need to get people involved in your kids. I was just thinking today, my wife, Janet, this afternoon, a group of people, ladies, volunteer. Some of them are former teachers, retired teachers, and they read to these kids in some of the schools on the north side of Springfield, Missouri, that are below reading efficiency for their age group. But these kids love to have someone spend time and read with them. Their parents don't do it. Come on, parents, grandparents, get involved. These kids tell my wife the best time of their day, of their week, is that day, Wednesday. Come on. That's why they're not achieving, because parents aren't telling. When we were growing up, my kids, they didn't necessarily like it, especially our son. Our girls, they made good grades. But Justin, we sat around after dinner, and we all cleared off the kitchen table, and we helped clean up. Then we sat there together around the kitchen table, and we studied. We didn't let them go down into the room in the basement and listen to their music and mess with phones and computers and things that didn't have anything to do with the school. We made them study. So much time we studied as a group.
Well, here's the perversion of the progressive education.
So
the reason you don't do that today is because progressives said, well, not all kids have that, parents who support them at home. So we're not going to give homework in the name of equity so that all children come in with the same background. What? So rather than do the hard work of getting in there and supporting families in what would be creating a nurturing environment at home, with whatever support system you needed. They rather than that, they dumb down everything so that in the name of equity, nobody would have, what do they call that? Preferential treatment by their parents, right? Yeah, and that's one of the things I'm in conversation with legislators about. A radio station over in the Joplin area did a polling of their listening audience saying, what are the top issues you would like the legislator, and in that case, it was Senator Jill Carter, who has been on this show. What would you like legislators to address about education? And one of the top 5 issues that came back was home economics.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So if we have people who are from dysfunctional families where they don't know how to nurture children, then put the course back in there that will give them some foundational information about what should go on in a home, to keep kids healthy, support them in their education. Personal finance, in my mind, should be part of home economics because that's what you need to run a home, right? It's not just a math course that some people should get. It's part of what you need to be sovereign in your own abode, right? If you're going to be sovereign, you have to have all of the equipment to remain independent and free. But if you have to go to the school building to get your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you are no longer sovereign. Let's get a clue. All right? And the government has been enticing, like the frog, that you get away from that sovereignty and you become dependent on the government. And some people have been seduced. I'll call it a seduction process. Not just indoctrination, but seduction to give up your freedom.
Because it's tempting, right? As humans, we want to help. When we see a need, we want to help. But sometimes there's confusion between an individual helping or a private organization helping versus, the government should help. There's a difference between those two, and we conflate them. And when we say, the individuals need to provide that assistance, your neighbors need to bring you meals when you're disabled or when different things happen. When we say that kind of stuff, they say, what? You're against the government helping? You don't want to help people? No, I do want to help people, but I want it to be done in the way that's the proper.
That preserves their sovereignty.
Yes.
Good.
That will actually help.
One of the other things I want to make sure that we stress, and I want to get into what do you see in your school board position that's good and bad that we need to improve on. But just very, very quickly, I just want to make sure it's the parents and the grandparents and the schools, everybody together. What I see today is lack of responsibility to vote. That is your right. It is, people have died for that right, okay? Thousands and thousands of people have died. You have the freedom and ability to make your own decisions and to vote for who you want to be over you and help run the country. And so I'm going to talk about school boards. I was a school board member a long time ago too. And April elections, just like the election we just had here in Christian County, less than 8% voted. Less than 10% usually votes for an April issue. Now, in a presidential campaign election, we'll have 70-80% of the country vote. That's a pretty good number, but it should be higher than that. So again, it's the responsibility of the schools and everyone to teach to vote. Okay, that's important. But okay, let's go, Christina. How many years have you been on the school board?
3. I just went yesterday. You're speaking about voting and selecting the people who are going to preside and make decisions. And it's not supposed to be preside and make decisions. It's supposed to be represent your voice when those decisions are being made. But I just went yesterday to file to run for re-election for next year. They're 3-year terms, school board terms are, and in December is the time when people can file. If you are interested and you have a passion for education and helping represent constituents, go down to your school district and file. It's December 9th through December 30th is the date for municipal elections, city government, local government. But school districts are closed, that last week during Christmas. So really there's just a couple of weeks, December 9th through 19th, usually that Friday. And then they're open the last day, December 30th. They're open usually for a couple of hours or so. In my community, they're open for 1 hour on December 30th. So a person could go and file that last day also. But it's open for anyone who wants to run as a candidate to be elected to that position to represent. I totally believe it's to represent the community's voice, the community's values in the decisions being made. Now that requires, I don't want to get off track too much, but that requires transparency of being able to see what those decisions that are being made are so the community can give their input. It requires some accountability for, hey, we said we wanted this decision to be made. And is that what's really being done or not? And in order to be able to evaluate that, you have to be able to see what's being done. So there are lots of different areas involved in making that a good governance situation.
But you have to know the purpose and structure of government in order to employ that, because I have witnessed a professional organization that's supposed to represent school boards in Missouri basically tell school board members, I mean, I've seen the slide, stay in your lane. I'm like,
Exactly
excuse
right.
me, I'm the elected official. You are supposed to be a consultant.
State statute calls school board members a board of directors.
Yeah.
Like with a company, you have a board of directors. Now you've hired a CEO and you've hired an HR person, you've hired marketing people to make decisions and run different parts of your company. And I don't think education is supposed to be much different than that. It's publicly funded.
No, it's
So
not
I think
supposed
it's
to be
supposed to be a
different.
board of directors, but it's not. I've seen
What's
what you just said.
happened is an elitism that's crept into the government culture that says the experts should be running this show. Okay, not your democratically elected officials. And so the experts then are the bureaucrats in the offices that do the daily work, and the board is marginalized unless the board takes back its authority and says, no, you report to me. You will tell me the information I want because I'm elected by the people to make the decisions, to make the vote. Okay. But the bureaucrats tend to harbor and keep to themselves that information in order to ensure the board will vote the way they want to, not the people in the community. And that transparency you're talking about is absolutely essential. But it's up to the board to know its real authority. And what I'm seeing happen at the state level is the board is now pushing back on the bureaucrats, saying, no, you don't give me the item to vote on a week before the vote.
Right.
We're going to have a first and second read.
Yes.
And then we'll vote. In the meantime, any information I request, you will give to me because I'm making the decisions here.
Yes.
And that is, I'm telling you, it's causing heartburn for the bureaucrats. Because they're used to saying, here, rubber stamp this.
And understandably, it's heartburn because you have someone who's not involved in the daily operations coming in and asking questions. And so you have to take time to explain to them what is happening. But that is vital. That's the way our government is set up.
Not only that, they're not making decisions. They're following the conditions of money. The grant money that a district or a state takes in, the bureaucrats aren't making decisions. They're saying, what are the conditions to get this money? Whether they're good or bad, whether they're constitutional or unconstitutional. The goal has been to get more money. And I'm saying that love of money is the root of all evil. You have compromised what the freedoms are guaranteed in the Constitution for what some private entity or what federal entity that doesn't care about your state constitution wants you to implement. And you'll say, well, this is the condition of the grant. We have to do it this way to keep the money. Give the money back. You know?
Christina, one or two things. Being on the school board for 3 years and you filed for re-election. I'm glad you did that. So what would you like to see changed on the school board? You've got a great school that
we do.
I mean, so it's recognized as one of the best schools in the state of Missouri. But obviously, we can make changes. There's always room to make positive changes. What would you like to see as a school board member in your last year, in your next term?
Good question. I've seen minor changes already happening, which feel major to me because as a parent, before before I started being on the school board as a parent, I had questions about the way things were done and were these policies followed. And it was hard to find any information, even going to school board meetings, because I don't think they realized it, but the school board and the administration had an agenda that they could all access on their computers. And they would say, okay, do you have a question about this report? Okay, let's pass it. Well, no one else in the audience or no parent or community member could see that. Well, so that's been fixed now. All of those things are now linked. Anybody can get on and can see any of the reports, can see the financial thing. Like, there didn't used to be recordings of the meetings. If you didn't happen to be there at the meeting at the time or available to watch the Zoom link, they've always, well, for a long time, they've Zoomed them, 5 or 6 years. They've at least that many years they've
So
Zoomed them.
transparency is really improving.
Right. So those kinds of things are getting better. Now, I just talked with a friend who lives in another district about their district. Now they are doing things to have the board more involved as the budget is built.
Yes.
I would love to see that kind of stuff. I'm a math teacher, but I'm not a finance person. So, the finance people, they figure all the stuff out in the administration and they bring it to us board members and they say, now here's this. And in our district, they're really good about saying, here's a spreadsheet that's active. And if you want, we can change some numbers and see. But we don't see the components of what kind of spending goes into this category. And this other district that I was talking to, she was telling me their board members can even be involved in understanding how much is spent from each different. I think those kinds of things would be
So more
important.
transparency on the budget process.
Yes.
And actually, I'd love to have that more in our county level, instead of having the auditor tell me 3 or 4 weeks before the budget's due, numbers that I didn't even know about.
Yes.
And so that's good. Anything else? We're going to run out of time. But
Well,
Oh,
and as the U.S. Department of Ed is reversed and becomes dismantled, you're going to see more of that authority come back to the states. And that's the level the local school boards have to watch, because the very same agents who are controlling the federal level will just find it easy to control at the Capitol unless the boards get active and say, no,
Yes.
constitutionally, our state is supposed to be a home rule state. We're not. We're kind of a hybrid. But the more you allow top-down encroachment, the less responsive the government's going to be to the needs of the local community. And that's where really the board has to stand in the gap.
Yes. I would like to see how well are we supporting our teachers. We have great teachers doing good things, the people in the trenches, working with the students, helping them learn. How well are we supporting them with what they need? And are there, when you get in a circle of people, whether it's education or anything else, you get in a circle of people, we all share the same kind of views and thoughts, and you go to the same conferences and you talk the same way. And then an outsider comes along and says, how come you're doing that? And this circle of people doesn't even realize there might be something else that they haven't thought of. So I think having that input and having some more collaboration, I understand it's tedious and it's tiresome, but I think it's vital. It's necessary. Whether you're talking about the budget, which I admittedly don't know as much about as I need to know about in our district, or whether you're talking about curriculum. And that state organization that you talk about that tells school board members to stay in their lane talks about a real danger of micromanaging. We don't want to micromanage something that we are not in charge of, let me rephrase that. Something that we are not in the midst of doing. We're not in the trenches. We don't want to micromanage how the lesson is taught. But we need to be able to see the things that are overall guiding principles and how those overall guiding principles are implemented. We need to be able to see those things at least so we could have input or make suggestions, or we could be that outside person who says, what?
And the statute in this state says that the buck stops with the school board.
Yes.
You are the ones who are ultimately have authority over that.
Yes.
But you do have to be able to observe instruction. So that, you want to know my opinion? That's all cult behavior. It's how they keep from being observed. And the superintendent will say, well, it's just not convenient for us. You're interrupting. What? It's my job. I'm elected to have this supervisory capacity. Okay, so the same organization.
I do want to add one thing. Our district has board walkthroughs every month. We go and visit a different school and we walk through, and the teachers are showing us the things they're doing as they're teaching their kids. And we do have opportunities to go. I would love to go, as a math teacher, I'd like to just go sit in a class myself, but I understand it if there are some things that aren't practical about that.
Yeah, I okay, so you make appointments. But the idea of putting a barrier between the elected official and the activity they are in charge of, and I'm glad you go as a board, because that's always the fallback, is that as an individual you don't have authority. It's as a board you have. Fine, I like your idea. Travel as a board. But you also have to be aware of Potemkin villages. You know what I'm saying? Where they set you up to show you what they want you to see.
Right.
And yeah, so that's where you need to stay connected to the families who are giving you reports firsthand on the ground with their students.
Yes.
And that's what you have been a master at doing, is having listening sessions with the families, but you are actually chastised for that. Rebuked for that. And I'm like, no, she's right.
One thing for sure, ladies, we're running out of time, but one thing for sure is we have to have control in schools, control in businesses, control in government. We have to keep control. However, the more people that get involved,
that's right,
whether it be in schools, government, business, whatever, the more people that get involved, the better we always will be. Okay? So thank you very much for being here today. We're going to end it with just very quickly.
It
did. we in fact, we just got warmed up. So we could be could be like the warm up period, and we could talk all day long, because this is so important. Stay involved wherever you live. Stay involved with your education for your kids and your grandkids. Okay. But we do have two great sponsors that make this show possible. The first one is Brad Pistow, and he is a certified fiduciary financial planner located in Ozark, Missouri, on Farmer Road. And he is actually not just one of the best in the state of Missouri, he's one of the best nationally in all 50 states, licensed in 22 states. I know that's not everywhere. However, he has business associates in all 50 states. He travels the country and speaks on financial planning, retirement planning. He's written 2 books, best-selling books, Safe Money Matters and Bulletproof. You can get those books free. You can get free advice by calling 417-581-9222, 417-581-9222. Lisa will answer the phone. They will give you a book. They'll give you information. You can make an appointment to talk to him. If you live too far away, he'll hook you up with someone else. But he is absolutely, I use him. My family uses him. A lot of my friends, business friends, just citizens are using him. He can figure out plans for you where you will run out of your life long before you run out of money. A lot of people are worried about inflation, cost of living, everything today, and they're worried about running out of money before they run out of their life. I don't worry about that. He has plans that will take care of that. But he also has plans that will make you money right now. So honestly, you need to call Brad Pistow. The next sponsor is Springfield Nissan, Springfield Kia. Used to be Youngblood Motor Group. That was Youngblood, John Youngblood and John Whittaker. Now it's John Whittaker and Aaron Swanson. And these guys are always on our show once or twice a year, and our people like to listen to them because they are experts. The longest family-owned auto industry, used and new car industry and business in the Southwest Missouri area. 45 years and going strong. And I just bought my last car on Labor Day of this year, and I bought a Kia from them. And so honestly, you're just not going to go wrong with the prices, the service. My last two cars before that were Grand Cherokee Jeeps from the Youngblood Group. They can find you cars. I bought this car with 2,000 miles on it. I bought the last two cars with 4,000 and 8,000. So they can find you low mileage cars, save you some money, give you great service, and I highly recommend them. They're located 3838 South Campbell. New cars on one side of the street, on the other side of the street, used cars. Highly recommend them. Let them know that Mary and I both recommend both of these businesses. Go see them. They've got great specials going on right now as they're clearing out 25s. So two great sponsors. Christina, thank you for being on today. We'll have you on again. We just got started awesome. And now we got to end. But we'll be back next week. We're getting closer and closer to Christmas. For me, I start being really good at this time of year. I'm going to be talking to Santa Friday night because we have Friday Night Lights down in Ozark. There'll be a big crowd down there, and Santa's down there, and I'm going to have to tell him that I've been really good. And unfortunately, most of the time Santa knows me, and he'll say, "Lynn, you haven't been good enough." That's a shocker. But you guys have a great weekend. Have a great weekend. We'll be back next Wednesday. God bless.